And welcome to our first concert of the season at Old Songs. With lots more great concerts to come. My name's Phil Toomam. I'm a board member here. Our executive director, Joy Bennett, is attending a wedding out of the area this weekend. And her husband, Chris Caldaway, is leading a festival, so you got the third string. And great to see everybody. Welcome to everybody on the stream. And I will introduce Nancy Papish, who is a volunteer with the Mohawk Towpath Scenic Byway, who will talk about why we're all here.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, on this lovely fall day. It's pretty nice out. This year, 2025, is the 200th anniversary of the opening of the Erie Canal. You're probably going to see a lot more stuff as we get closer and closer to the middle of October. 2 days ago, out in Buffalo, a replica of the Seneca Chief, which was the boat that DeWitt Clinton came on, has started its voyage. It's going to come from Buffalo to Albany. It will be stopping in Amsterdam. It'll be stopping in Schenectady, Waterford. If you want to find out where it's going to be, on the back table is this publication put out by the Heritage Corridor, and there is an article on the Seneca Chief, and you can log on to that. If you log on to Buffalo Maritime Center and scroll down to the bottom to the voyage of the Seneca Chief, you can find out where and when it's going to be in this particular area. Just a few words, quick words about the Erie Canal. I read something the other day. I probably knew this, but it never sank in. It sank in this time. New York State is the only state out of 50 states that has coastline on both the ocean and on the Great Lakes. And that has everything to do with why we were able to get the canal built here. Just briefly, and it's all laid out in this publication, there were 3 versions of it. The original ditch in 1825. 10 years later, it was already too small. So they did an enlargement, and a reminder that both the original and the enlarged were not in the Mohawk River, but they were next to it, and they used a system of feeders to get water. And the enlarged, they already knew that they needed more water, and so they also built a series of lateral canals, 9 of them. And you might hear more about one of those tonight. And then when the third version came along in the early 1900s, they needed to enlarge again, but this time they did go into the rivers and the lakes. So I work with a local organization. There are flyers on the back. It's called Mohawk Towpath Scenic Byway, 26 miles between Waterford and Schenectady. And this is a self-guided, get in the car, drive yourself, 33 stops, an audio at each one of those stops. And when they built the barge canal, they just walked away from the enlarged. And so we were left with all kinds of things. I got in my car and drove between Schenectady and Waterford and found 50 places in those 26 miles where there either is still something or there was something from the canal. It's an incredibly rich stretch of history, and I invite you all to come and explore it. Enjoy tonight's concert.
Thank you, Nancy. And if you grew up in New York State around the same time that I did in 7th grade, how many of you learned about New York State history and geography in 7th grade? Yeah. 4th grade, okay.
Right.
7th grade. So these 2 guys really don't need an introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. George Ward is a singer, a raconteur, a multi-instrumentalist, and an occasional songwriter. I'm going to put my glasses on because I grew up back when you learned about New York State history. And he's been learning the songs and stories of New York, New England, and Eastern Canada for over 60 years, sharing them across America and beyond. He's sung ballads and spun yarns of the Erie Canal for canalers or is it canalers, George?
Yes,
Canalers,
either
and
one.
shoreside folks through years of concerts afloat and ashore. Dan Berggren, on the other hand, has been writing, performing songs of the Adirondacks for a mere 50 years. He's recorded over 20 albums, was recently inducted into the Capital Region Thomas Edison Hall of Fame, formerly with the Newton Street Irregulars, and sometimes with fellow jam crackers Peggy Lynn and Dan Duggan. George Ward and Dan Berggren.
Thank you. My great-great-grandparents came from Ireland in the mid-1800s. 25, 30 years before that, the Irish that came over were working on the canal. When I landed in New York Harbor, the weather was warm and clear. But I did not stay long in that city, as you shall quickly hear. I did not stay long in that city, for it happened to be in the fall. And I ne'er reefed a sail in my riggins till I anchored upon the canal. So fare ye well, father and mother, likewise to old Ireland too. And fare ye well, sister and brother, for kindly I'll bid you adieu. That's the chorus. Next time, you know what to do. When I came to this wonderful empire, it filled me with greatest surprise to see such a great undertaking. On the like I ne'er opened my eyes, to see a full 1,000 brave fellas at work among mountains so tall, dragging a chain through the mountains to strike a line for the canal. So fare ye well, father and mother, likewise to old Ireland too. And fare ye well, sister and brother, for kindly I bid you adieu. I entered with them for a season, my monthly pay for to draw. And being of very good humor, I often sang air and go bra. Our provisions, it was very plenty, to complain we'd no reason at all. I had money in each of my pockets while working upon the canal. So fare ye well, father and mother, likewise to old Ireland too. And fare ye well, sister and brother, for kindly I'll bid you adieu. When at night we all rest from our labor, sure but our rent is all paid. We laid down our pick and our shovel, likewise our axe and our spade. We all said a joking together, there was nothing our minds to enthrall. If happiness be in this wide world, I am sure it is on the canal. So fare ye well, father and mother, likewise to old Ireland too. Farewell, your sister and brother, for kindly I bid you adieu.
Well, it's a good place to start. We're going to be bouncing off places on the byway. So I might as well start by bouncing off home. I'm looking to see what key I think I'm in here. That's going to be this one. Hang on, new strings. Ah, there you are. That had nothing to do with strings. There. A lot has gone on the canal over its 200 years of existence. Some of it mentionable in polite company and some not. But I live in Rexford. If you don't know where Rexford is, just east of Schenectady on the Mohawk River. And it was an interesting place because at that point, the Erie Canal had been on the south bank of the Mohawk River. It came through Schenectady. There's a whole story about why it came through and not next to, but we haven't got time for that one either. Till it got to a little corner of what we now think of as Niskayuna called Aqueduct. Only if you grew up there, it's Aqueduct. And at that point, the canal crossed the river on an aqueduct. And it went through 2 locks right on the Rexford side. If you know where the Schenectady Yacht Club is, anybody know where the Schenectady Yacht Club is? Okay, that used to be a feed store on Lock 22 of the enlarged Erie Canal. And right around the corner from it was Lock 21, which the Yacht Club still uses to haul boats in and out. And then the canal went along below the big bluffs on the Mohawk River that you can see from Riverview Road. I may squeeze a story in about that a little bit later, but the Towpath snugged right up against the canal snugged right up against the bluffs. And the Towpath was on the riverside. In the 80s, Captain Michelle Brown and her usual Captain Bruce Lauren brought 2 successive boats, both called Nightingale, Nightingale 1 and Nightingale 2. They'd bring from running cruises on the Hudson and the very entrance to the Erie Canal at Waterford. They'd come up to Schenectady for a couple of weeks and work their tails off because they did morning cruises, they did afternoon cruises, and then they would do dinner cruises in the evening. And we wired the boat up, and I would perform on both of those 2 boats. And we'd be coming home from going all the way up the Mohawk River past Schenectady and through Lock 8, which was the cool thing to do, and then turning around and coming back through Lock 8. And we'd be sailing down, and I would have to sing some kind of homecoming thing, like rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea, rolling home to old New England, rolling home, dear land to thee, which is all very well, but we weren't rolling home to old New England. We were rolling home to southern Saratoga County. Chorus of the song says, roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land. Think about all of those Haudenosaunee people whose land the canal was built through. Where the Erie hugged the Palisades, those huge cliffs, and crossed the rippling water on the aqueduct, rolling down to Rexford coming home. And it sounds like this. Roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the Erie hugged the Palisades and crossed the rippling water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. Just sing that last line back to me. I'll sing it, then you sing it. Rolling down to Rexford, coming home. Sounds pretty good. Try this line. Where the Erie hugged the Palisades and crossed the rippling water. Try that. Where the Erie hugged the Palisades and crossed the rippling, rolling down to Rexford, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. I forgot we were doing this for old songs. They pick it up faster than COVID.
Faster than COVID.
Oh, fare you well to White Lake Erie, the green Niagara River. Roll ye gray swells of Ontario, St. Lawrence to the sea. I am bound a gentler passage east, away through Tonawanda. Stern waters of the peaceful border roll me down, good river. Roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the Erie hugged the Palisades and crossed the rippling water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. Oh, gone to ashes, gone to glory, all the engineers and diggers, all the huggies and their skippers, where their teams had gone before. I have touched them where their tow lines grooved the iron rails at Lockport, bid them peace and headed eastward, coming home, roll me down, good river. Roll me down, good river, shining valley, rolling down the shining hearth fires, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the Erie hugged the Palisades and crossed the rippling water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. Still they whisper to me, easy, rolling east along the levels, Brockport, Fairport, Adams Basin, Montezuma, and the rest, where politicos and visionaries, hungry men with shovels, turned a wilderness to coastline bending west. Roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the Erie hugged the Palisades and crossed the rippling waters, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. I am bound a gentler passage east, away through Tonawanda, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the builders of a nation cast their dreams on Erie water, east to memory, east to morning, coming home. Roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the Erie hugged the Palisades and crossed the rippling waters, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. East to memory, east to morning, coming home. You sound good.
Wonderful to be in a room full of singers. So as you might expect, we're going to go back and forth between canal songs and some other songs of New York State that deal with rivers and ponds and lakes. I grew up on Trout Brook Road in the hamlet of Olmstedville. Anyone know where Olmstedville is? Ooh.
Probably because of you.
When I got out of the Army in 1975, I met Pete Hornbeck, who also lived on Trout Brook Road. And Anne was a high school social studies teacher, and she told me, you know, while you're looking for work, maybe you should substitute at the local school. And I did, and that's how I became a teacher for my career, thanks to Anne Hornbeck. And Pete was developing his lightweight Kevlar solo canoe that you can pick up with one hand, carry it anywhere. He made canoeing for people our age a new thing, because you could put a boat up on top of your car by yourself. And the first time I tried my Pete Hornbeck Lost Pond canoe, it was in Trout Brook, which is barely navigable. But in the spring, the water's high enough that you can get a Kevlar boat through there. And I got so close to a beaver lodge that I could hear the little ones playing inside. And of course, you have to have perfect quiet in order for that to happen too. And this song emerged. One with the water, sailing or rowing or paddling a canoe. One with the water, as old as time, and each time it's new. I'm as anxious as ice in the winter, waiting for the big thaw, so I can run like the river again, even when days are raw. As sure as the sap that flows through the trees, as sure as the spirit of spring, I want to be one with the water, and free as a bird on the wing. Give it a try, one with the water. One with the water, sailing or rowing, sailing or rowing, or paddling a canoe. One with the water, as old as time, and each time it's new. Care and worry behind me, hope and expectation downstream. Thoughts are floating like clouds far above, drifting in a distant dream. Then the splash of a beaver tail wakes me, makes me aware of stern and bow. I'm already one with the water, balanced in the here and now. One with the water, one with the water, sailing or rowing or paddling a canoe. One with the water, as old as time, and each time it's new. As old as time, and each time it's new. Thank you. I appreciated the harmony, too. Don't think I didn't hear that.
Well, from the reverent to the irreverent. I wanted to put in a song that, as far as anybody knows, was actually written by somebody who worked on the canal and probably had this very unfortunate experience. There are other songs that refer to unfortunate experiences, but sometimes they use very unfortunate language to do it. A bullhead boat, and this works into the Byway, believe it or not. Bullhead was the biggest, strongest, carried the most cargo type of barge on the enlarged Erie Canal. And what was hazardous about it was the fact that it was like, imagine somebody designing 18-wheelers and thinking, okay, the bridges on the Adirondack Northway are this many feet high. We're going to subtract 2 inches and we're going to make our 18-wheeler just able to fit underneath. Of course, on a canal, sometimes what would happen would be the water would be high and you couldn't get through, but that's what a bullhead boat was. And there wasn't much space for the steerman to dock at the stern. You were standing on the cabin roof holding the tiller, watching the driver with the mules up on the bank. If you happened not to be paying attention when a bridge came along, very unfortunate things could happen. I was working in the line barn, eating beans and hay. The boss a-kicking my stern every night and every day. So I hired out canaling as a horny hand of toil, driving mules that kept a-bawling along the towpath smelly soil. Along the towpath smelly soil, my boys, the towpath smelly soil. Mules that kept a-bawling along the towpath smelly soil. You got the idea. But my feet raised corns and blisters, the mules but raised a stink. Roped my feet and threw me twisters plump into the dirty drink. So I thought I'd give up driving. The cap, he thought so too. Says he, hire out at diving or go bow in the canoe. Or go bow in the canoe, my boys, go bow in the canoe. Hire out, he hire out at diving or go bow in the canoe. Well, I was drying on the heel path, watching boats haul up and down, shivering from the first bath that I'd had since I left town. When a boat tied in the basin at the wood dock for the night, I lost no time to hasten round the bridge to ask a bite. Round the bridge to ask a bite, my boys, the bridge to ask a bite. I lost no time to hasten round the bridge to ask a bite. Why, they filled me up with beans and shote, they lighted me a cob. They asked me, could I steer a boat? They offered me a job. Next morning I was boosted to the stern cabin's roof. With the tiller there I roosted, and I watched the driver hoof. Sure, I watched the driver hoof, my boys, I watched the driver hoof. With the tiller there I roosted, and I watched the driver hoof. We was loaded down with Star brand salt. Cap was loaded too. I would not say it was his fault. What was the man to do? For the boat, she was a bullhead, decked up to the cabin top. Why, there's many canalers now are dead that had no place to drop. Sure, that had no place to drop, my boys, that had no place to drop. There's many canalers now are dead that had no place to drop. Why, the bridge was only a heave away when I saw it round the bend. to the cap a word I didn't say while turning end over end. For the bowsman, he forgot to yell, low bridge and duck her down. And the bullhead steersman went to hell with a bridge string for a crown. With a bridge string for a crown, my boys, a bridge string for a crown. The bullhead steersman went to hell with a bridge string for a crown. So come all you young canalers, never steer a bullhead boat. They'll find you some bright morning in the Erie afloat. Do all your fine navigating in a line barn full of hay. Low bridge you won't be hating, and you'll live till Judgment Day. And you'll live till Judgment Day, my boys, you'll live till Judgment Day. Low bridge you won't be hating, and you'll live till Judgment Day. Footnote. The bullhead steersman went to hell with a bridge string for a crown. If you take your map of the Mohawk Towpath Byway and you look for the Vischer's Ferry Preserve, which you should do for a whole bunch of reasons, and you find the entrance to it on Riverview Road, you will also find that right there is an honest-to-goodness Erie Canal bridge. And it's a Whipple Truss bridge. Squire Whipple, Squire was his first name, not his title, was a Union College graduate engineer who created a form of bridge that provided many, many bridges across the canal. If the Canal Corporation built the canal across a farmer's land, they were obligated by law to build a bridge so that he could get his team across from one side to the other to plow. And Vischer's Ferry was absolutely full of that stuff. You walk west from that entrance area, you can see the abutments of 2 or 3 more bridges before you get to the old Lock 19, which is also worth a walk. But if you look at that bridge, it's like a bow and arrow. It's an arch. And then right across the bottom is what looks like a chain of very heavy U-bolts linked one to another, to another, to another. It's the bridge string. It's the lowest thing on the bridge. And if you're unfortunate enough to be sticking up high enough, that's what's going to sweep you off into the canal. So you can go see the whole deal.
Got another?
Oh, I have another one.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. Oh, yeah, I even know why. Okay. Well, I'm going to indulge myself and blame this one on Andy Spence because she's here, so why not? But it's another Vischer's Ferry Preserve thing. It's another kid on the canal. This kid on the canal happens to be a girl. When Andy was putting together the Old Songs Erie Canal show, she said, I want you to write a song for a woman on the canal. And I said, well, I wrote Molly Come Back. And she said, yeah, but that's in a man's voice. The guy is complaining because his wife left him to be a canal captain. There were such people. And so she said, no, put this in a woman's voice. I said, have you looked at me lately? I was walking along the old towpath in the Vischer's Ferry Preserve, which you can do. It's a nice walk from Ferry Drive east about a mile, and you'll come to the old Lock 19 on the enlarged Erie Canal, which has been very nicely cleaned up by people. And I was walking along the towpath, and it was literally as if this kid came up and stepped on my toe and said, tell this story. I have no idea where this came from, or maybe I do. Grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. Grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. Grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. And I'm going to put that up just one fret, and maybe it'll be better for you, but it sure will for me. There. Grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. Grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. The tow line broke in the middle of the night. Steersman John drunk, he jumped up all in a fright. I heaved on that tiller stick with all my might. I steered her to the bank and Daddy made it all right. But how'd you know to do it? Daddy scratched his head. A girl can't steer a boat was all my brother said. Mama just laughed, boys, it's plain as day. Rosie's doing what she does her grandmother's way. Well, grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. Grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. Old Custer was the meanest mule we ever had. He would bite you, he would kick you, he was awful bad. Everybody kind of hoped that he might drown the day the tow line snagged and pulled the whole team down. But nasty as he was the strongest one. Cost our daddy plenty, now his day was done. I dove right in the ditch with a burlap sack. I threw it across his eyes and then I swam him on back. 'Cause grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. Grandmother says it, so I know it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. Oh, I don't know what they ate, but Dad and Mama got sick. Doc said it was cholera, could kill 'em quick. Grandmother came and did what all he said. But Doc said it was like she raised him from the dead. But meantime, me and brother Timmy worked that boat. Drove the team and ran the locks and stayed afloat. Delivered up our cargo just when it was due. You know, said Tim, we both did what we had to do. Oh, grandmother says it, so I reckon it's true. Any girl can do what she has to do. Grandmother says it, so I reckon it's true. My sister can do anything she has to do. That's Rosie.
I'll bet many of you are familiar with the writing of Jean Robert Foster. She spent her last years in Schenectady taking care of her folks and also working for senior citizen housing. But she grew up in the Adirondacks. Her mother had been a school teacher and her dad a lumberjack, and she ended up traveling the world, working with the likes of Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot and William Butler Yeats in Europe. And she wrote down, she had 2 books of poetry. One was in her younger years when her poetry is more flowery. And then as an older woman, she wrote down her memories of growing up in the Adirondacks. And these poems speak storytelling and speak with a mature voice about neighbors, about tragedy, about hard work in the mountains. Her dad, who had been a lumberjack, and she remembered him singing a song about river driving on the Sackandog. And she put those words in the back of one of her books. Didn't have a tune, so I've added one. And it's even more meaningful, this song, when you know that her grandfather, William Newell, lost his life on the Hudson during one of the spring river drives. If you've ever driven along Route 28 from North Creek to Indian Lake, you know that the Hudson hugs the highway. Yeah. Imagine that so high that it's almost up to the road level. Mm-hmm. Imagine it's so filled with logs in the spring that you can't see the river.
Can you repeat her name, please?
Jean Robert Foster. Yep. And her poem, William Newell, I'll follow it with the words she remembered her dad singing, River Driving on the Second Dog. And you can join me. My girl's waiting for me is your line. Forgotten except by one grandchild, you sleep by the North River. You knew the river well, driving logs each spring, living a shantyman's life near its headwaters. There was no boat, and so you tried to cross on a raft with 2 other men that day in high water. Now, whether you slipped and fell or were pushed in because of a quarrel, no one knows. But you clung to a rock in mid-river until you could hold no longer. Then you waved goodbye to Lucinda and your 4 little girls watching on the bank, and the river swept you down into the gorge. That was more than 100 years ago, but to me it is yesterday. They found you and laid you there beside the North River that took your life and set up a white birch tree for a marker to grow up beside you. I am the seed of the smallest daughter, and through her I loved and remembered. I came back to the river. Old men showed me the white birch that guarded your dust. I walk the earth with your heart in my breast and your blood in my veins, and I know what no other knows, that you forgave the North River, even at the last, when you rode its white water. River driving on the Second Dog, riding on a slippery log, sleeping in a frozen bog. My girl's waiting for me. Hard-boiled eggs 3 times a day, wet as beavers we hit the hay. Not much sleep, but good big pay. My girl's waiting for me. Big French Joe, the logs drowned him. He'd no chance to fight and swim. The logs jammed up to the river's rim. My girl's waiting for me. His girl come to me and cried, if he's dead, then I shall die. Ma petite, he used to sigh. My girl's waiting for me. We will find him down below, round the bend where the water is slow, floating with his pike in tow. My girl's waiting for me. One more night and one more day, the logs will reach the river bay. I'll skin off these togs and then I'll say, my girl's waiting for me.
Now, how you can do that without shedding a tear, I have no idea. I absolutely do not. Let me solve my argument with this guitar for a minute. You know, my wife and I met Jean Robert Foster later in her life in Schenectady, courtesy of the Adirondack singer Lawrence Holder, whose album you can still get on Folk Legacy Records through Smithsonian Records. We had no idea who she was. We knew she was important to Lawrence, and we knew that he was important to her because he was a repository of a lot of these old songs and stories. But man, do you sometimes want to go back and relive moments of your life when you just didn't know enough? I don't think I'm the only person who has moments like that. Okay, here's one of our lateral canal songs. There will be another one, but you have to remember the Erie Canal became part of a whole system that tied New York State together. And at one point, a substantial majority of the population of New York State lived within reach of one part of the canal system or another. In a lot of ways, the most important one, not in all ways, but in a lot of ways, was the Champlain Canal, which connected the Hudson River with Lake Champlain, which of course then flowed into the Richelieu River and the Chambly Canal into the St. Lawrence at Montreal. And there you have this huge pathway that comes all the way down from Canada, something that George Washington in particular favored. He was trying to tie together a country that threatened to come apart. We need him again.
Amen.
Whitehall to Waterford, iron, ice, and grain, from the tidewater Hudson to the banks of Champlain. Farewell to Italia and the green shamrock shore. Je me souviens, may we live to see old Saint John once more. Last line is easy because you've seen those Canadian license plates on the Northway that say, Je me souviens, I remember. Now, what that person remembers is a whole history we can't get into, but it's worth knowing if you live here. Whitehall to Waterford, iron, ice, and grain, from the tidewater Hudson. Remember, the Hudson River is tidal all the way up to the Troy Dam. To the banks of Champlain, farewell to Italia and the green shamrock shore. Irishmen dug the canal. A lot of the stonework was done by Italian stonecutters. And that's where those bits that still hold themselves together, sometimes having been immersed in the Mohawk now for more than 100 years. Solid stuff. Farewell to Italia and the green shamrock shore. Je me souviens. May we live to see old Saint John once more. The last leaves of autumn hung still on the trees. There was frost on the tow line and a bitter dawn breeze. Sunrise tinted snow clouds and the team's steaming breath. We had potatoes for the city and a long winter's rest. From Whitehall to Waterford, iron, ice, and grain, from the tidewater Hudson to the banks of Champlain. Farewell to Italia and the green shamrock shore. Je me souviens, may we live to see old Saint John once more. White lime from the quarries for the Smith's Basin kiln. Port Henry shipped the iron ore to Troy's blazing mills. Pulp wood and pottery, there was lumber and beer, and we hauled it all from spring thaw till the dying of the year. From Whitehall to Waterford, iron, ice, and grain, tidewater Hudson to the banks of Champlain. Farewell to Italia and the green shamrock shore. Je me souviens, may we live to see old San John once more. Smugglers and immigrants, salvation and sin. There was fortune, there was hardship, and we teamed it all in. Like the timber from the wilderness, like the sheep to the fold. Now the years cloak it surer than the North Country snow. From Whitehall to Waterford, iron, ice, and grain. From the Tidewater Hudson to the banks of Champlain. Farewell to Italia and the green shamrock shore. Je me souviens, may we live to see old St. John once more. We were the dreamers and the diggers so bold. We were the children who played in the hold. The wives and the mothers of a strong arm and will, whose bargain with life was a home never still. Oh, look where you will for us, surely we are gone, like the breath of our teams in that long ago dawn. Look where you will for us, still this good land knows the strength of our hearts and the touch of our hand. From Whitehall to Waterford, iron, ice, and grain. From the Tidewater Hudson to the banks of Champlain. Farewell to Italia and the green shamrock shore. Je me souviens, may we live to see old St. John once more.
There's folks that like the ocean crest, and folks that like the town. But when I really feel the best is when the drive goes down. So pull away, you river rats, from landing down to lake. There's miles of pine to keep in line, 100 jams to break. So pull away, you river rats, from landing down to lake. There's miles of pine to keep in line, 100 jams to break. There's folks that like the good dry land, folks that like the sea. But rock and river, shoal and sand are good enough for me. So roll away, you river rats, from landing down to lake. There's miles of pine to keep in line, 100 jams to break. There's folks that like to promenade along the boulevard. Here's a spot I wouldn't trade for all their pavement hard. So pull away, you river rats, from landing down to lake. There's miles of pine to keep in line, 100 jams to break. 10,000 logs by currents burled, waters white that hiss. Oh, where's the sidewalk in the world that's half as fine as this? So pull away, you river rats, from landing down to lake. There's miles of pine to keep in line, 100 jams to break. So pull away, you river rats, from landing down to lake. There's miles of pine to keep in line, 100 jams to break. Here's to you in
Wherever you want to sing
Okay.
it, it's your song. I think I wrote it down. I didn't write it down.
D.
Okay.
The Algonquin and the Iroquois, natives of the land, they understood the balance between nature and man. Then the trappers and explorers, long since laid to rest, left us a path to follow to that northern wilderness. Here's to you, all the mountain people, here's to you. Each woman, man, and child, here's to you, who call the Adirondacks your home forever wild. Communities grew up around the military forts. With water travel more secure, some settled lakeside ports. Pioneers from New England, across the lake they came, and settled down to farm the western shore of Lake Champlain. Here's to you, all the mountain people, here's to you. Each woman, man, and child, here's to you, who call the Adirondacks your home forever wild. Quebecois and Irish immigrants came here to cut the pine. Others worked the forge and furnace and dug iron ore in the mines. The mining and the lumber brought new roads to carry goods. The railroads and the steamers brought more people to the woods. Here's to you, all the mountain people, here's to you. Each woman, man, and child, here's to you, who call the Adirondacks your home forever wild. The ups and downs throughout the years are seen in every face. You feel the seasons come and go, live a natural pace. That's life in these mountains, just look at history. They were here long before us, and they'll outlast you and me. Here's to you, all the mountain people, here's to you. Each woman, man, and child, here's to you, who call the Adirondacks your home forever wild. Our home forever wild. Thank you. We'll take a short break for desserts and CDs.
So welcome back. I hope you picked up some Mohawk Towpath information that's back there and on the table. And for those of you who are out in Streamland, it's, I'll tell you the website that you could go to. It's in this little tiny font, www.mohawktowpath.org. And let me tell you about some upcoming events. I mentioned this is our first concert of the season. On next Saturday, October 4th, we have Teho from Finland. On October 11th, we have Vandalia, a trio playing American string band music. On Saturday, October 18th, we have the Johnson Girls featuring our own Joy Bennett. On Friday, let's see, October 31st, we have the Sky Consort and Emma Bjorling. Music of Scandinavia, British Isles, and Quebec. And lots more stuff going on as well. You could pick up this card in the back on the table, and it's www.oldsongs.org. We have in the back, we have Dan on sound, Keith on sound, Dan handling the stream, and our Old Songs volunteers. Give it up for them. I just gave them a quick reassignment to see if they were paying attention. So I just wanted to read a short quote from George, which applies to both George and Dan. Those of us who are drawn to these songs, tunes, and stories are the tradition. And finding the right balance between reverence and irreverence, timeliness and timelessness, is what keeps that tradition alive. George and Dan.
We are cutting a ditch through the mire right up to our necks, damn it. Yes, we're cutting a ditch through the mire, and the mud is our principal hire. In our pants, down our boots, down our necks, me boys. In our pants, down our boots, down our necks. We are cutting a ditch through the gravel across the state, damn it. Yes, we're cutting a ditch through the gravel, so the people and freight they can travel across the state, me boys, can travel across the state. We are cutting a ditch through the rocks across the state, damn it. Yes, we're cutting a ditch through the rocks, and we'll finish her off with locks. From rocks across the state, me boys, from the rocks across the state. We are cutting a ditch from Albany over the state, damn it. Yes, we're cutting a ditch from Albany, and we'll finish the job at Lake Erie. From Albany over the state, me boys, from Albany over the state.
Let's see. Well, here's a song that isn't that old, but it refers to the time before the Erie Canal. Because you have to remember that the Mohawk River and the gap between the noses, some, 30 miles or so west of Schenectady, where the Mohawk River cuts through, is why this is all here. It was the one natural bypass to the Appalachian chain of mountains. So it was a logical place to build a canal. It was also the logical place for the great trail of the Iroquois before there was a canal. You stand there now, out by the noses or anywhere along here, listen for a couple minutes and look up, and you will see airliners following the same route. Whoops. This is operator error. Hang on a minute. Okay. There we go. The travel along that river used to be by what were called bateaux. I mean, before that, it was canoes, right? But when the Europeans got here, bateaux were just big, heavy workboats. They were the same kind of thing that was used to break up jams on the rivers in the Adirondacks. And you would pull them west into the wind along Mohawk River, row if the river was deep enough. Either way, it was hellishly hard work. And various efforts were made to improve that. If you were coming from abroad, suppose you left your home country, whether it was Ireland or England or somewhere else, crossed the Atlantic on a sailing ship, landed in New York, and wound up coming up the Hudson River, probably on a Hudson River sloop like Clearwater. Then to get around the Cohoes Falls, you would cross overland from Albany to Schenectady. So Schenectady was a boat building center. And they built bateaux by the hundreds until there was a fire on the waterfront there a few years before the Erie Canal opened, and they never rebuilt that part. But think about what it would have been like. Think about what it took. Okay, home is terrible. We're starving, but we're going to get on a ship. We've never seen the ocean. We've never been outside of the sight of land. Think about that for a minute if you never have. It's different. And then we come to this new country with people talking all kinds of languages and have this vague idea that we're going somewhere called Michigan to settle on a farm somewhere. Where the Durham boat rests by the restless stream, when the creak of the ferry rope is still, to the far-off sound of the watchman's round, rest by the Binnykill. Rest by the Binnykill. Now the land of your birth is a memory, and the storm-bosomed ocean haunts you still. Sloops and Hudson steams are the stuff of dreams. Rest by the Binnykill. Rest by the Binnykill. From a tavern close by, where the traders lie, take an Indian blanket for the chill. As the moon drifts higher by the boatman's fire, rest by the Binnykill. Rest by the Binnykill. On the edge of a hope and the wilderness, where tomorrow leads westward as it will. All the past is gone, like the boatman's song. Rest by the Binny Kill. Rest by the Binny Kill. The Binnakill, by the way, which I forgot to say, was an arm of the Mohawk River that created an artificial island and also created the waterfront of Schenectady. It is now, if you want to visit it, the parking lot of Schenectady Community College.
We're going to head up north of the Adirondacks, north of the Blue Line, to some rivers. The Grass River, the Racket, the Beaver, the Moose, the Bog, and the Oswegatchie, the Middle and East Oswegatchie. And this was very sacred land with all those rivers. In the days of old, when tales were told, stories of origin, how life had begun, you didn't need much to stay in touch with the land where the 7 rivers run. 7 rivers run, 7 rivers run. Imagine a land where the 7 rivers run. Paddling the grass or the racket, the beaver, the moose, or the bog, the middle or east Oswegatchie, floating in the morning fog, hiking 500,000 acres, taking time to try and understand, wondering as we wander how to be part of the land, like the days of old when tales were told, magical metaphors of where we came from. But some lessons are lost, 'cause progress has its cost, endangering the land where the 7 rivers run. 7 rivers run, 7 rivers run. Imagine a land where the 7 rivers run. Snowshoes through old growth forest, all the better to hear. The silence of snow lets us listen to the finches of winter sing clear. Each season has its own lesson, whichever direction you roam. Slow down and savor each moment. You'll know why you feel at home. Since those days of old, if the truth be told, we're used to having everything under the sun. But now we've got so much that we might lose touch, except in the land where the 7 rivers run. 7 rivers run, 7 rivers run. Imagine a land where the 7 rivers run. Imagine a land where the 7 rivers run.
I did a musical soundtrack, actually more than one for more than one film about the Erie Canal. They all seem to sink without a trace after a while, whatever that means. But in one of those films, there was a long exposition where the filmmaker had to get in word from all of the people who had sponsored the film. I wrote a long guitar piece, which I could ask my son Nathaniel to play, because I can't play it anymore, but I'm not going to put him on the spot to do that. But it had to go for a long time. But one of the people in it was a descendant of DeWitt Clinton's, and what he said, Dan just made me think of, which was, the treasure that we have here in the Northeast is water. This is where the great northern forest comes from. This is where the Adirondacks come from. We can't let them take it. Now, who he meant by them and who we might mean by them now are different, but the problem is the same. Okay, this is, well, it is what it is. Somewhere in the course of the long history of the Erie Canal, a canal boat captain came into possession of a dead whale. And in a moment of something, decided exhibiting said whale along the canal on his canal boat was a moneymaker. And so mounted the whale on a canal boat. There are posters you can find, occasionally reprints of all this stuff. Eastman House at Rochester printed one. I have one. I should have brought it. But anyway, here was this whale, which the guy not only came across, but had to embalm somehow. And they traveled west along he opened its mouth and put carbon in it. A dozen men had an oyster dinner sitting in the mouth of the whale. All kinds of stuff. And according to folks out around Seneca Falls, the whale was exhibited there, and then on its next stop west, some local wags decided, well, if it had been embalmed in something, that something must have involved alcohol. Let's see if it'll burn. That doesn't figure in the song. Everything else does, so be sure you're comfortable. There's cider on the table and the scuttle's full of coal. The teams are winter pastured and we've scrubbed the decks on a hold. We're mudlarked here till April means the canal is drained and they're sitting wherever they wound up. And the wind it blows a gale, we'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. Which reminds me, all these things lead to more stories, and that's dangerous because this is too long as it is. But I was in Fisher's Ferry one time talking to somebody, may have been old Mr. Shippey or Will Van Branken, I'm not sure, who said that there was one winter when they drained the canal early, and the one-room schoolhouse teacher suddenly had about 20 extra kids from those canal families for the whole winter. That kind of thing happened in the year of 1845, July the 13th day. The whaling bark Eliza from old Hudson bore away. Her crew stout hearts and seasoned hands, one would cost her dear. A farm boy down from Cropsyville, still wet behind the ears. She left Manhattan town astern, bound for the Arctic ground, where every man aboard her hoped his fortune might be found. But to their great confusion, in a voice that rasped and shook, the lookout hollered, "There she blows," a mile off Sandy Hook. "Away all boats," the captain cried, "'tis a whale to bring us luck." Why, so it seemed, for soon the farm boys boat the whale had struck. The 100-fathom line paid out, the whaleboat bore away on a wild Nantucket sleigh ride up the tide through New York Bay. Past ships at anchor waiting for the turning of the tide. Past steamers, lighters, ferries, up the Hudson she did glide. Past the Palisades and Harlem, with the farm boy doing fine, till he dropped his oar and panicked, grabbed the axe and cut the line. There's cider on the table, and the scuttle's full of coal. The teams are winter pastured, and we've scrubbed the decks and hold. We'll mudlark here till April, and the wind it blows a gale. We'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. Well, now Captain Billy McIntosh, a canaler bold and true, sailed out of Bushnell's Basin, hauling salt and timber too. He was last boat of an upstream tow on the Laker Betsy G, when he spied that rogue cetacean headed inland from the sea. He never stopped to count the cost. He bolted down his rum and hollered to his driver, "Cast us loose, you lazy scum." He seized the Betsy's boat hook, and as the whale flew past, he gaffed the trailing harpoon line and swiftly made it fast. There's cider on the table, the scuttle's full of coal. The teams are winter pastured, and we've scrubbed the decks and hold. We're mudlarked here till April, and the wind it blows a gale. We'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. Oh, what a race there then ensued, for Betsy she was light, and the whale towed her northward all that day and half the night. They swept right past the tug and tow, crossed the Tappan Zee. 'Twas off Storm King she rolled fin out next morn at 3:30. The night boat down from Albany was startled by the sight of Bill aboard the Whale's Head in the early morning light. For the tug was claiming salvage, and Bill was cussin' blue, but it cost him twice the rate to tow the Whale and Betsy too. There's cider on the table, the scuttle's full of coal. The teams are winter pastured, and we've scrubbed the decks and hold. We're mudlarked here till April, and the wind it blows a gale. We'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. Ah, but when they came to Albany, and Billy hired a crane, his driver went to mass and swore he'd never drink again. Bill loaded the whale on Betsy's, Bill laid the whale on Betsy's decks, and on her side he wrote in 4-foot letters, 50 cents to see what's down my throat. He hired a gang of side-cut idlers, dosed them up on rum, and marched them down its gullet like the saints to kingdom come. Knives and pumps and picks and shovels, wheelbarrows hauled the horrors out. In a week he cleaned her slick as any sportsman cleans a trout. There's cider on the table, and the scuttle's full of coal. The teams are winter pastured, and we've scrubbed the decks and hold. We're mudlarked here till April, and the wind it blows a gale. We'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. Now when the sheriff came to Dockside with complaints about the smell, Bill's genius reached for pinnacles no mortal tongue could tell. For he bought a load of whiskey off a scow in from the west, and embalmed the whale in 14 tons of old Kentucky's best. The whale's nose lay on Betsy's deck, her tail draped o'er the stern. Screwjacks closed its jaws for ducking bridges in their turn. Where's the line go? Bill rolled a length of carpet down the whale's gaping throat and lit the way with gas lamps off a wrecked excursion boat. Why, as west they towed from Albany, the news flew on ahead, and many a stout lock tender swore he wished old Billy dead. For crowds trooped down that carpet, paid the price and took Bill's dare to rock where God sat Jonah in Bill's mother's rocking chair. A window in the whale's side, its curtains neatly pressed, shed light on Billy's maiden sister Amy, primly dressed. At a wheezy parlor organ, Lord, it made great many weep to rock while Amy rocked in the cradle of the deep. There's cider on the table and the scuttle's full of coal. The teams are winter pastured and we've scrubbed the decks and hold. We're mudlark here till April, the wind it blows a gale. We'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. Ah, but all good tales have endings sure, and this one's sad to tell. In spite of Bill's embalming skills, the whale began to swell. It stuck fast in the whalelock shed at Syracuse, you see, and it cost Bill all he'd cleared to hire the teams to drag her free. The commissioners decreed the whale could go no further west. They towed north to Oswego for some thinking and a rest. Bill took a tow for Rochester, but never made the town. In a storm on Lake Ontario, the Betsy G went down. Why, there's cider on the table and the scuttle's full of coal. The teams are winter pastured and we've scrubbed the decks and hold. We're mudlark here till April and the wind it blows a gale. We'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. Some say that Billy made the land, others say he drowned, but every lush that walked the streets of old Oswego town was ready on the shore next spring with nets and poles and sticks for the 89-proof salmon run of 1846. We're cider on the table, the scuttle's full of gold. The teams are winter pastured and we've scrubbed the decks and hold. We're mudlark here till April and the wind it blows a gale. We'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. Some say that Billy made the land, while others, and away down south in Jersey by the shores of Sandy Hook, there's an old man runs a boarding house. He's harmless by his look, though he rambles in his stories and spends every summer's day with a boat hook on the seawall, gazing east across the bay. There's cider on the table, the scuttle's full of coal. The teams are winter pastured and we scrub the decks and hold. We're mudlark here till April, the wind it blows a gale. We'll deal a hand and sing of Captain Billy and the whale. So now you know.
I think it was 5th grade when I first heard this song, and it only had maybe 3 verses. But it was, after all, elementary school. And I'm wondering how many of you learned we were 40 miles from Albany, forget it, I never shall. Yes. Yeah, 4th and 5th grades where you learn about New York State history in New York. We were 40 miles from Albany, forget it, I never shall. What a terrible storm we had one night on the Erie Canal. Oh, the Erie was a-rising, the gin was getting low, and I scarcely think we'd get a drink till we get to Buffalo, get to Buffalo. And it was really something as a fifth grader to sing about gin. We were loaded down with barley, we were loaded down with rye, and the captain, he looked down on me with his wicked eye. Oh, the Erie was a-rising, the gin was getting low, and I scarcely think we'd get a drink till we get to Buffalo, get to Buffalo. Our captain, he came up on deck with a spyglass in his hand, and the fog, it was so gosh darn thick that he couldn't spy the land. Oh, the Erie was a-rising, the gin was getting low, and I scarcely think we'd get a drink till we get to Buffalo, till we get to Buffalo. 2 days out from Syracuse, the vessel struck a shoal, and we'd like to all been foundered on a chunk of Lackawanna coal. Oh, the Erie was a-rising, the gin was getting low, and I scarcely think we'd get a drink till we get to Buffalo, get to Buffalo. We hollered to the captain on the towpath treading dirt. He jumped on board and stopped a leak with his old red flannel shirt. Oh, the Erie was a-rising, the gin was getting low, and I scarcely think we'd get a drink till we get to Buffalo, get to Buffalo. The cook, she was a grand old gal, she had a ragged dress, so we hoisted her upon the pole as a signal of distress. Oh, the Erie was a-rising, the gin was getting low, and I scarcely think we'd get a drink till we get to Buffalo, till we get to Buffalo. The captain, he got married, the crew all went to jail. I'm the only sea cook's son that's left to tell the tale. Oh, the Erie was a-rising, the gin was getting low, and I scarcely think we'd get a drink till we get to Buffalo, till we get to Buffalo, till we get to Buffalo, till we get to Buffalo. I can almost hear Johnny Cash doing that song.
Well, and you could sing in his range, too. Till we get to Buffalo. I tried, but no. All right, I'm going to bring us to the modern-day canal. Because the thing you got to realize is that it's not only the fact that the replica of the Seneca Chief is coming through and reenacting DeWitt Clinton's triumphal tour along the canal. It's that there's stuff going on the canal, on the waterway, all the time. Does the name Robert Ewins mean anything to anybody here? Does the name the Great Loop mean anything? To Nancy, it would, yes. Imagine, if you will, starting out, let's say, in Rexford, where I live, taking the Erie Canal all the way west into Lake Erie, then up into Lake Superior, down Lake Michigan, through the canal that connects to the river, that connects to the other river, that connects to the Mississippi. Down the Mississippi you go, through the Gulf of Mexico you go. You can go around the tip of Florida if you want through the Keys, or through the Okeechobee Waterway, which is partway down the state. Then you come up the Intercoastal Waterway along the East Coast, except in the places where you actually have to go out into the ocean, which you really have to watch your weather about. Eventually you come to New York City. You come up the Hudson River, you come to Waterford, you go through the Federal Lock, you go through Lock 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you move up through Lock 7 eventually, and you come back to Rexford where you started. That's one version of the Great Loop. That's not far enough. You can go up Champlain to Canada. You can go up the St. Lawrence River and enter Lake Ontario and do it that way. There are a whole bunch of variations. Now, the thing about Captain Ewan's, here's a 71-year-old guy. This year in July, started out in a john boat. You know what a john boat is? It's a nice flat boat for going fishing, and they're usually about 12 or 14 or 16 feet long. His was 16 feet long. Very initially stable. You can stand up in one and fly fish and whatnot. You don't want to lean too far over the bulkhead because it'll flip right over. Unlike a fishing dory, but great for normal things. 45 horsepower Tohatsu outboard motor. He starts out from Pensacola, Florida. In 19 days, 13 hours, and 1 minute, he did the Great Loop.
Holy cow.
That is the fastest solo trip of the Great Loop that's ever been done. There's about a 12-day and 13-hour vessel with a multiple crew, but Ewens did it all sitting on his butt in an aluminum boat bouncing over the waves, and it makes my back hurt to think about it. Sailors see the world differently. That's why when you look at nautical charts, you only see on land stuff that you can see from the water, because those are your landmarks. The First Reformed Church in Schenectady, in the Stockade area, Captain Bruce Lauren of the Nightingale, aforementioned, Captain Bruce always called that the chicken church. And the reason was there's a rooster in the weather vane on top. And setting out, particularly in the afternoon, sun setting low in the west, and the rooster is just lighting up and saying, "Here I am, brother. This is the way you're supposed to go." Inland sailors bound away along the Mohawk Valley, westward to the sun, and its haul away. Her mast unstepped, her awnings furled, an ice chest and a radio. Roll and go, she's following the dream. A trimaran for Michigan, a cruiser for Ontario, westward to the sun, and its haul away. Cruise ship for Oswego, Thousand Islands and the Saguenay. Roll and go, she's following the dream. Speculators, immigrants, gone west on Erie water. Hooves and trace chains echoed through the gardens of Schenectady. 100 years their tow lines swept the muddy path of empire. Wonder of a smaller world, fast growing. Dinners on the propane stove, local news is sputtering. Westward to the sun, oh, it's haul away. One more lock on this day's run, all bicycles and fishermen. Roll and go, she's following the dream. The setting sun paints steeples gold and factory chimneys amber, scattered through the valley of the gateway to the west, where ghosts speak clear in daylight from old factory floors and mansion halls. Leave the night for shadows on the towpath. Tie up for a bag of ice, an evening's walk, a movie. Westward to the sun, haul away. Shift her fenders, check her lines, turn in and let her slumber. Roll and go, she's following the dream. Thunder up the valley swells the creeks and stirs the river. It'll turn her darkened waters brown by morning. Mooring lines and docking cables groan in easy harmony to dreams of sweating teams and creaking harness. Silver moon, a northwest wind, a muskrat swims the river. Westward to the sun, haul, haul away. Go below and tumble in, sure nothing stays forever. Roll and go, she's following the dream. Roll and go, she's following the dream.
How many of you have ever been to Boonville? I'll bet most of you know where Boonville is. I was in Boonville one day and I stopped in the Black River Canal Museum, and Dale Ferris was so enthusiastic telling me all about it that I got hooked, and I wrote a song about the Black River Canal. It was intriguing. It has more locks going from Rome to Boonville uphill and then downhill from Boonville heading north. It has more locks than the entire Erie Canal because of that elevation. And do you have where is that image? So that you can pass around this drawing. Eventually it'll get to you.
Yeah. You really need to see this. It's hard to imagine, honestly.
And, a lot of credit to Governor DeWitt Clinton. Some people call it Clinton's Ditch, and others called it Clinton's Folly. But the idea of this canal across the state, and then the support it needed, all the other canals that went to it, like the Black River Canal, helped keep the water up in the Erie Canal in the summertime when things got hot and dry. But then the Black River Canal needed a feeder canal of its own, and that had to be tended and taken care of. All of the businesses along in the North Country that would send their produce, their materials down the Black River Canal, then down the Erie Canal to New York, got turned into products that came back up and manufactured goods for the rest of the state. It's got a chorus for you to sing. Black River Canal, from Lyons Falls to Boonville. Black River Canal, from Boonville down to Rome. 109 locks, more than blocks of limestone, made the Black River Canal. Flowing north and west to Lake Ontario, Black River helped the region to grow. Fed by the deer, the otter, and the moose, the beaver, and the independence too. 10 years of politics got it off the ground, then another 20 to build it strong and sound. Sawmills, grist mills, and the tanneries saw 50 years of prosperity. Black River Canal, From Lyons Falls to Boonville, Black River Canal. From Boonville down to Rome, 109 locks. More than blocks of limestone made the Black River Canal. 10 years of politics got it off the ground. Then another 20 to build it strong and sound. Sawmills, grist mills, and the tanneries saw 50 years of prosperity. Pine for the lumber and hemlock for the bark. Spars made of spruce for the ships of New York. Deliver the load, turn around, pay your toll. Return with dry goods and coal. Black River Canal, from Lyons Falls to Boonville. Black River Canal, from Boonville down to Rome, 109 locks. More than blocks of limestone made the Black River Canal. Breaks in the feeder and greed in the woods. Low water in summer, mills couldn't make their goods. The canal was costing more than it was bringing in, letting the railroads win. Black River Canal, from Lyons Falls to Boonville. Black River Canal, from Boonville down to Rome, 109 locks. More than blocks of limestone made the Black River Canal. The Black River Canal. Thank you. I want to explain one thing. The last verse talks about breaks in the feeder. There's a feeder dam and greed in the woods.
Yeah.
Local folks discovered, this is around Forestville area, that if you had to repair the feeder dam, you got paid for that. So mysteriously, there were breaks in that feeder dam. And it reminded me of a story that Bill Smith tells, that when he was a kid, in order to get some monies, to get some income, some people in the North Country, what was called the, where he lives near Colton, they'd start a fire so that people could be paid to put it out. And it was the same idea of messing up the feeder dam so that they could be paid to fix it.
Time for the national anthem, I think. But first, we need to take a vote. How many of you learned this as 15 miles on the Erie Canal?
All right.
How many people learned it as 15 years on the Erie Canal?
Oh, no, I learned that.
Yeah, okay, I'm afraid Miles wins. It always does. Thanks to Pete Seeger, thanks to Bruce Springsteen, they're good guys.
Now that we have the question, ask it again.
Pardon?
Ask the question.
Repeat the question.
Repeat the question. The whole question? Okay. How many people learned it as 15 miles? A forest of hands. How many people learned it as 15 years? Some
What was the original?
fewer but very determined hands. Thomas Allen, who I tend informally at this point to think of as Tommy Allen, which isn't fair because I never saw his name written that way, was a commercial songwriter. Most of the stuff that he wrote, except for the Erie Canal song, that you would ever hear now is cakewalk stuff and ragtime stuff that a high school band might play. But he was prolific. He didn't live to be an old guy. He died in his 40s, which is too bad, because he didn't realize what he'd done. He lived in Natick, Massachusetts, but he was hired to come to Rochester to conduct an orchestra for some purpose. He was a violinist, too. And while in Rochester, heard about the new canal, the New York State Barge Canal that was being built, because the route for the new canal did not follow the route of the old canal, except occasionally when it was convenient. So Rochester was about to lose its place on the canal. So he envisioned an old canal driver and his mule lamenting the fact that their jobs were going away because the new canal was not going to have a towpath. Steam tugs, then diesel ones, but 15 miles it's going to be. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. You're capoed up, and I think I should be too. If nothing else, it would be nice if we were in the same key.
Just thinking of your voice.
Yeah, I think you're right. I got an old mule and her name is Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's a good old worker, she's a good old pal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. We've hauled some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay. And we know every inch of the way from Albany to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, for we're coming to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. You bet your life and never part with Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She knows every inch of this old canal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Get up, old mule, here comes a lock. We'll make Rome about 6 o'clock. One more trip and then back we'll go, right back home to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, for we're coming to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, you always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. Oh, you better not mess around with my old Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Toughest old donkey on this whole canal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. Why, a friend of mine once made her sore. Now he's got a broken jaw, 'cause she let fly with her iron toe and kicked him back to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, for we're coming to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. I don't have to call when I want my Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She trots from her stall like a good old gal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. I eat my meals with Sal each day. I eat beans and she eats hay. She ain't so slow if you want to know. She put the buff in Buffalo. Oh, Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, for we're coming to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. And I hope you all will have a chance to do your own navigating on the Erie Canal one way or another. The stories don't end, and the experiences don't either. And you can explore a lot of it just along the Mohawk Towpath Byway. So take your maps and go explore, including an old dry dock, the old Klutz dry dock that's down right near where Larry and Ruth live, also down in Vischer's Ferry, and just a lot of places to explore. I could go on, but I shouldn't. Thank you for coming out.
Yep. And thank you for coming out. And if you would turn around and wave to the camera, and thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Valerie?
I'm sorry.
Acapella?
Acapella, why not?
I've traveled all around this world in Tonawanda too. Been cast on desert islands and beaten black and blue. I fought and bled at Bull's Run and wandered since a boy. But I'll never forget the trip I took from Buffalo to Troy. For it's tramp, 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 and tighten up your lines. Watch the playful flies while on the mules they climb. Whoa, back, duck your nut, forget it, I never shall. When I drove a team of spavin mules on the Erie Canal.
We shipped aboard at Buffalo, bound for old New York. First thing ever they rolled aboard was a barrel of Black Rock pork. From Buffalo clear to Albany, they fed it to poor old me. Then they boiled the barrel and the rest of the pork, and we had it all for tea.
For it's tramp, 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 and tighten up your lines. Watch the playful flies while on the mules they climb. Whoa, back, duck your nut, forget it, I never shall. When I drove a team of spavin mules on the Erie Canal. The cook we had on board the deck stood 6 feet in her socks. Her hand was like an elephant's ear, and her breath would open locks. A maid of 60 summers was she who slept upon the floor, and when at night she'd get to sleep, oh, suffering how she'd snore. And it's tramp, 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 tighten up your lines. Watch the playful flies while on the mules they climb. Whoa, back, duck your nut, forget it, I never shall. When I drove a team of spavin mules on the Erie Canal.
One night upon the Erie, I could not sleep a wink. The crew, they all bore down on me, for I refused to drink. Oh, fearful storms and terrible fogs, forget it, I never shall. For I'm every inch a sailor boy on the Erie Canal.
For it's tramp, 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 and tighten up your lines. Watch the playful flies while on the mules they climb. Whoa, back, duck your nut, forget it, I never shall. When I drove a team of spavin mules on the Erie Canal. Well, when we come to Buffalo with Sally, Jack, and Hank, we greased ourselves in tallow fat and slid right off the plank. The cook is in the poorhouse, the rest of the crew's in jail, and I'm the only devil afloat that's left to tell the tale. So it's tramp, 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 tighten up your lines. Watch the playful horse flies as on the mules they climb. Whoa, back, duck your nut, forget it, I never shall. When I drove a team of spavin mules on the Erie Canal.
Safe home, y'all.
Thank you all.
Oh.